Let's get to some breaking news into us out of the White House and from Silicon Valley. President Trump, we've learned, has signed an agreement with Meta to settle a lawsuit that he filed against the company for suspending his account after the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, 4 years ago. The settlement, we understand, to be $25 million, most of which is going towards his future presidential library. This story first was reported by the Wall Street Journal. Meta says it has no comment on that, but says they can confirm that $22 million number to the Trump library. Garrett Haake is at the White House. Garrett, this is so interesting for a lot of reasons here. And I know you've just confirmed this with some of your sources here. It's our understanding, I think, that President Trump signed this settlement that has to do with Meta and the attack on the Capitol sitting in the Oval Office today.
Well, it looks like a lot of this was discussed, apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal sources, a detail that I have yet to confirm but hope to nail down shortly, during the time that he was being sentenced during the transition on the New York City hush money case. So, yeah, look, the top line number here is extraordinary, $25 million, most of that money going to this fund that, as best I can tell, doesn't actually exist yet for a future Trump presidential library. You'll remember that that's what happened with the defamation settlement that the president won against ABC and ABC News. Sort of the start of funding this library tends to be coming from these lawsuits that the president has filed somewhere along the way. And it comes amid this obviously thawing and improving relationship with Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Meta, that has been so notable as the president's assembled this kind of kitchen cabinet of tech moguls around him, including Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and others. This lawsuit seems to be kind of the one last remaining sticking point between the president and Zuckerberg's Meta, which has now reinstated the president, of course, on all of its platforms. And
remind people why Donald Trump previously, right, I guess then President Trump, again President Trump, was suspended by Meta in the first place. Because when that happened, that was a huge, huge news story. It was extremely significant.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fallout from the then president's comments about January 6th and what had caused that, his complaints about election fraud. It was sort of one of the first major steps taken, around the same time as the impeachment inquiries were getting underway in the House to ban President Trump from, of course, Twitter at the time, where he was most active, but also his platforms on Facebook and on Instagram, which are critical for politicians in a fundraising perspective. That ban persisted for quite some time and generated this lawsuit. Hallie, you know this well from having covered Donald Trump. He is a litigious person. He files a great deal of lawsuits, and frankly, we don't see many of them come to fruition or a close in any substantial way. A lot of them end up dismissed. This one, obviously, far from it, even all these years later.
There is a fascinating detail in the initial Wall Street Journal article that I should note NBC News has not confirmed that says toward the end of the November dinner, so this is a dinner that we've reported on, or at least a visit to Mar-a-Lago by Mark Zuckerberg went down after Donald Trump won the election. Apparently then soon-to-be President Trump raised the matter of the lawsuit, the People said. The president signaled that the litigation had to be resolved before Zuckerberg could be, quote-unquote, brought into the tent, according to one of these sources speaking with the Wall Street Journal, Garrett, which is just so interesting when you think about what you have described, the evolution, politically, it seems, of Mark Zuckerberg, that he has been very clear about over the course of the last month or so, with Meta dropping independent fact-checking, for example, Zuckerberg making public comments about how he sees this culture shift in this moment now that Donald Trump is in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, you see both of these men sort of moving towards each other culturally to one degree or another. And with Mark Zuckerberg's comments, Zuckerberg also an MMA fan, which is another thing that unites him with Donald Trump. And that language from the president, again, not something I can confirm, it's based on the Journal's unnamed sources, but is so consistent with the way that we know that Donald Trump talks about these issues and the way that he thinks about kind of loyalty and the people that he keeps close to him. So very striking to watch him bringing whatever was said in that meeting or not. He has clearly brought Zuckerberg into the tent now.
And you know who else he's brought into the tent? You referenced him earlier, Elon Musk. Not just into the tent, into the Beltway, friend, as you well know, because you're seeing it there on the White House campus there. You and others have reported on some of these very big clues, even just this week, that Musk is having quite the potentially heavy hand when it comes to some of these moves from the White House. That whole sort of deferred resignation to millions of federal workers had the same subject line, fork in the road, as an email that Musk sent, right, when he was taking over X, if you will. There has been a slew of reporting about people close to Musk, people involved in this sort of Silicon Valley tech world that now have positions at the Office of Personnel Management, at some other significant sort of White House-related agencies here. Can you just big picture talk to us about this dynamic here? Because the Elon Musk story is now a political journalist's story, right? It's no longer the purview of, like, you know, the tech world.
No, absolutely. There is so much overlap now, and the White House is very careful not to sort of put Elon Musk's fingerprints on many things directly. Musk himself, much less careful, essentially claiming credit on X for this plan to effectively buy out or offer buyouts to millions of federal workers around the country. As you note, it's exactly the same thing he did at Twitter to solve what in his mind was a similar problem, an entrenched workforce of a different corporate culture than what he wanted to propagate, a way to help shrink a workforce and keep people who are, in his mind, hardcore, a very high compliment in Musk's world. So while the White House doesn't like to directly link this, you see so much of his corporate track record along the way being now applied to how he and Donald Trump are trying to remake the federal government.
Garrett Haake having another super chill evening at the White House tonight. Garrett, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, friend.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.